Whilst on death row, Ted Bundy had received hundreds upon hundreds of love letters and marriage proposals from women all over the world. He even went on to marry one of these women, Carol Ann Boone. They have a child together.
Carol, you want to marry me? Yes. And I want to marry you? Yes. And I do want to marry you.
She was a big backing of his, a big supporter of his in the media, outwardly supported him and thought he was innocent. These women are said to be attracted to him due to his looks and his charm and his charisma and his ambition or whatever the f***. Wade Wilson, a lesser known case, and I just talked about him on Tuesday. He murdered 2 women within several hours of each other back in 2019. Women all over Florida, where he is currently on death row, just a couple of hours away from me, have raised thousands of dollars to get him out of harm's way. They also sent him explicit photos in the mail. Explicit, I'm talking. He doesn't even really receive them because the guards censor them. Like, the guards won't let the mail go through. Like, insane. And that happened to Ted Bundy, except back then, the guards would still give it to the prisoner. Jeffrey Dahmer received a 6-page love letter from a devoted female fan, supporter, describing her life with him and everything that they could have together. He, like the others, also received explicit photos in the mail from women all over the world. This part is funny because Jeffrey Dahmer was a gay man. He's not doing much with those photos, ladies. A romantic attraction to serial killers and criminals. Hybristophilia. I could go on here. Manson, Peterson, Ramirez, even Chris Watts, who murdered his family back in 2018. This included 2 toddlers, 2 Bella and Celeste Watts. He murdered them. Just yesterday, I encountered somebody on the internet that would write him letters, Chris Watts letters. She said that she got bullied for writing him letters back in 2018. Don't let me get a hold of you. This is a common question I asked only just on Tuesday. What is the issue with women, and why are they attracted to serial killers? What is so enticing about criminals? Serial killers. So in this video, we are going to dive into the possible reasons why women may want to fuck serial killers. First and foremost, there is no set reason, and there may never be. But a few speculate that maybe women are attracted to the thought of being with a bad boy, and they like that persona. They believe they could fix him or tame him from doing bad, prevent him from doing bad. Known as the fixer mentality, adding on to what I just said, many people believe that it's possibly because women want to change them, whatever killer they're writing to, whether it's Chris Watts or Ted Bundy, or because they see something good in them. They believe they can look past the evil, violent nature of these men and look on the inside to find a kind, loving, wholesome husband for their children. But unfortunately for the hybristophiliacs, you can't look at somebody like Ted Bundy, and no necrophiliac, by the way, and logically ever expect to change or fix him. And it's not like him being a necrophiliac was a secret way back when. That was known to the public. And yet we still had women sending him news in jail. What the f***, man? Some people believe that it's actually just a trauma response. They find the brutal nature of these men attractive, either because they were subjected to abuse when they were younger, or just because they think it means no one else could hurt them. And what that means basically just no one else could hurt them because they're already with a bad person. But let's cut the shit here. In reality, these women just don't have self-esteem. They have very, very low self-esteem. And really, I think that's all it is. If you were to ask me, I think you're just a pathetic bitch loser. Okay? But past trauma doesn't excuse hybristophilia. And sexualizing and writing to a serial killer or a criminal, supporting them, condones their behavior. And when you are a victim of abuse or rape or assault, and then you go and you write and you send things to somebody that did those things to other people, to other women, you're condoning what happened to you and what happened to those people and those actions. An article published by A&E titled "Why Are Some Women Sexually Attracted to Serial Killers?" conveniently listed out some of the answers we might be looking for here. Some of them I already covered. Like number 1, the not so uncommon desire for the bad boy, particularly with more immature females. 2, attraction to deviance, which can trigger in the brain the release of the neurotransmitter norepinephrine, which itself increases arousal and attention. In other words, the deviance of the relationship can be felt positively. Number 3, aristophilia. Number 4, feeling she can change him, which also partly explains the general desire for bad boys, and or that he is simply misunderstood, had an unfortunate childhood, or lacks sufficient self-control. And I see this a lot on media, in the media. Well, he or she had an unfortunate childhood, so I understand why they did what they did. I can kind of feel for them. No. No, no, no. So that's not how it works. I see this specifically with cases such as Eileen Wuornos. She was abused multiple times when she was a child. She was in sex work at a young age. She's traumatized. Okay, I understand that. I feel bad for her to an extent. When the day that you start killing people just to rob them and take their money, that is an issue. That does become sort of an issue. It's like condoning Ted Bundy's behavior because he was traumatized at an early age because of the way women treated him. He hated women. Are you going to condone that behavior just because he had a bad relationship with women when he was younger? No. So then why do you do it for her? It doesn't clock. It's not clocking to me. 5, fame. 6, seeking a safe and controllable relationship. 7, mental instability. 8, feeling of being special and that he chose her of all the women seeking him. 9, an evolutionary psychologist would say that the male's aggression is an attractive quality to women as a means of survival against attackers. 10, the novelty of it and attention. 11, potentially financial in terms of selling the story or the killer's memorabilia, though likely infrequent as an explanation. And yes, many of these women who are attracted to or have had a relationship with a criminal or a serial killer have been previously sexually or physically abused. Doesn't really take Albert Einstein to figure that out. No sane, normal person without a bad past is gonna write to serial killers and send them pictures of their tits. The article goes on to explain that the relationships between criminal and civilian are usually sought out by the woman, by the female, not the other way around. Which I mean, in retrospect here, how could like Ted Bundy seek out a relationship with a woman when he's behind bars? But I still understand what the point there is making. I've mostly mentioned cases from the 70s, 80s, 90s. I mentioned Chris Watts from 2018 and Wade Wilson from 2019. But I want to make it very clear that while hybristophilia became very popular back in the 70s, 80s, 90s, it is still rampant. It is still happening. Maybe not as often because we don't have really big serial killers these days. I don't know why, but we don't really have serial killers nowadays. Not as big as, the big ones. Bundy, Dahmer, Ramirez, etc. However, I vividly remember sitting on TikTok as a 14-year-old girl, okay, during quarantine 6 years ago, watching people sexualize like the Menendez brothers. Which is crazy for another reason. No matter how I feel about their case, those boys, those men, were sexually assaulted in horrific ways by their own father. by Jose Menendez. Sexualizing them when they already have a past of sexual trauma is crazy. But anyway, I saw a lot of the brothers and Richard Ramirez, who is so ugly. Like, I don't even understand what women are seeing. Why are you sexualizing Richard Ramirez? He carved out a woman's eyes and then put them in a box. And then he listened to Eyes Without a Face. This is who we want to sleep with? We've got an issue, man. However, I didn't start noticing an uptick in the Jeffrey Dahmer part of this topic until around 2022, when Ryan Murphy's show came out. Same guy who had people talking about having sex with Ed Gein back in like October. I can only imagine how the Lizzie Borden show is gonna do. I'm not gonna go there yet, but I will be releasing a video about the Lizzie Borden show when it comes out, and I will be shitting on Ryan Murphy the entire time. However, that was when I was first introduced to Jeffrey Dahmer being sexualized. By the way, who the f is sexualizing? Who the fuck wants to have sex with Jeffrey Dahmer, dude? What is going on up here that you look at Jeffrey Dahmer and you're like, yeah, I need that man. That's the one that I want. Mind you, he's gay. Mind you, he doesn't even want you. That's why we're here, to try and figure it out. Yes. Getting back into Ryan Murphy a little bit, I think he is a big reason why hybristophilia is such a huge thing present day, and this kind of brings us into the pop culture aspect of it all, and the pop culture aspect of this is very big. It is a very big part of the issue. First, casting choices. Zac Efron as Ted Bundy. One of my favorite movies, by the way. Evan Peters as Jeffrey Dahmer. Charlie Hunnam as Ed Gein. Why are we casting sexy men to play serial killers? Why are we casting hot people to play serial killers? Even the girl that's playing Lizzie Borden later this year is really pretty. Like, why can't we cast, like, somewhat ugly people? I don't understand why we have to cast Zac Efron as Ted Bundy. And Zac Efron has... all of these men, really. Zac Efron, Evan Peters, they all have a big female, young female fan base. I think casting sex symbols with heavy female fan bases is stupid. To play men that have ruined hundreds of lives. Why? Okay. I have an issue with the true crime industry as it is. I don't think that it should ever have been about, you know, selling a product or Hollywood or whatever. But I think that the least we could do here is not make Jeff Dahmer sexy. I think the least we could do here is not include literal thirst trap scenes in the Dahmer docuseries. I may even include a few in this video. Bare minimum, bare. Like bare. I'm not asking for a whole lot here. One thing that I can appreciate with the... I forget the name of it because it's so long. Shockingly evil. Shockingly wicked. Violent evil. I don't know, it's one of my favorite movies, but I can never remember the name of it. With Zac Efron as Ted Bundy. At least they didn't like do like thirst trap scenes, but they did with Dahmer, and they did it with Ed Gein. Sexualizing Ed Gein. Before I recorded my very first YouTube video, I rewatched the Dahmer series. My first YouTube video was about Ed Gein and the Ed Gein show. I wanted to make sure that my critiques of Murphy specifically were right, and of course they were. I'm always right about everything. Multiple shots of Evan Peters shirtless, same with Charlie Hunnam in season 3 of Monsters. I didn't watch season 2 with the Menendez brothers because I didn't care to. I know that case like the back of my hand. But I know that Ryan Murphy sexualized their case too, and I've seen scenes and the posters and all that, and it was very, very weirdly sexual. You can go on TikTok and find teenage girls making edits of them. Dahmer, Bundy, all of them. It's sick. It's sick. And you can find them making edits of the TV shows too, which to an extent, okay, But if it's like an aesthetic edit and you're just kind of showing like the visual shots, but when you're making full-on edits of like like Jeff Dahmer like shirtless or like Ed Gein shirtless or like Nicholas Chavez as a I want to say Lyle, things are getting a little weird. A little bit weird.
Satisfaction.
There was that one edit that went really viral back in like 2024 when the Menendez Brothers show came out, and it was of Nicholas Chavez. He is a very attractive man, okay? But this is what I'm saying. Like, we need to stop casting like hot people to play criminals. It's crazy. But anyway. And there was that edit that went viral, and every time it came up on my feed, I was just like, what are we doing here? The thing that irks me the most, the thing that I think about with this the most is, can you imagine what Kimberly Leach or even Tony Hughes would think if they saw an edit of their murderer? Kimberly Leach, a 12-year-old girl who was kidnapped and murdered by Ted Bundy from her school. He kidnapped her from her school. Tony Hughes, who was an aspiring model and a deaf man who had a loving family, loved him. Oh god, it like makes me emotional. He had a loving family and what could have been a f***ing thriving career. He was murdered by Jeffrey Dahmer. Drugged, strangled, left to decompose on the bedroom floor for 3 long days, and eventually, Jeffrey Dahmer dismembered him, and his remains just blended in with the other victims in the apartment. Oh, it's so sick. I can only imagine what the families of the Dahmer victims were going through in 2022. And while, yes, I think it's important to talk about these things, I don't think that it should be done in the glamorized fashion that it was done in. Although the Dahmer series is very good, it shouldn't exist in the first place. You shouldn't be making a lot of fucking money off of victim stories and then not giving the money to the families, because Ryan Murphy didn't do that. He kept it all. I always think about what the families would say if they saw the way teenage girls and women, grown women, talked about the murderers of their loved ones, the abusers of their loved ones. I wonder what they would say. Even like Diane Ruiz, a more recent case, Wade Wilson, one of Wade Wilson's victims. What would like her son say? Because she was she was a mom of 2 kids. What would those 2 kids say? Richard Ramirez murdered a grandmother literally just for fun one night, just wanted to break into her house. But there's women on the internet talking about how hot he is. I even had one go as far to say that it would be a good time to be killed by him in a comment section on Instagram. And I will be putting that comment up, full username and everything. Maybe it's a result of the fact that America's mental health system isn't great, okay? It sucks, really. It really does. And we need reform. We do. And these women do actually need to heal. They do actually need help. And getting on the internet and talking about how sexy a murderer is, that is not a good way of coping. Sending a 6-page love letter to Jeffrey Dahmer, not a good way of coping. Asking Ted Bundy for his hand in marriage, not great ways of coping here. But if these women got the help they needed, we wouldn't be dealing with this. But this is their way of coping with sexual trauma and domestic violence. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I don't personally care about what you went through, whether it was sexual assault or domestic violence. You are condoning that just on somebody else. You could get help. You could go to therapy. You could figure it out. And as for the teenagers that use it as a coping mechanism, your parents are shit because they should be watching your online activity. I was doing some crazy shit on my phone when I was in 6th grade, and my parents took it away from me. I didn't have my own phone for like a year. A lot of the TCC, true crime community on Tumblr and these weird little forums, they are a big part of the people of hybristophilia. They are a big part of the community that sexualizes. And they're not in it, they're not like in true crime like the way that I and you are, where they just want to like learn about. No, they actually want relationships with the kid. Like they actually want to be with the kid. Dude, I can't even. The thing with TCC though is it is such a detachment from reality, and you can tell that the people in that community are mentally ill. What you do there is you pick a killer basically, and that killer is like your obsession, and they kind of like jump around killer to killer, case to case, even like Columbine shooters, etc. And it's just so sick. It is sick. And that is also hybristophilia. I challenge you, viewer, to go on Tumblr and search up a different serial killers. Just look up Jeffrey Dahmer or Richard Ramirez. They're there. You'll find it. I'll even include some of it. I uploaded a whole video on this. This was one of my first videos. I did a reaction video just looking at TCC. Awful, awful place to be. To an extent, the true crime community, true crime media is at fault here. And one day soon, I am gonna do a video on why this industry is problematic, why I think this industry is problematic, and why I'm in it in the first place. But that's for another day. When we as in true crime YouTubers, etc., talk about cases and then do an ad read mid-video, you take away from the victims. You make money off their names, off their abuse, and their stories, and their living family members. You don't. How do I word this? It's like you're detaching it. You're detaching yourself from what actually happened to those people when you do a f***ing set bird ad. Mid-true crime case. Like, are you kidding me? The Netflix documentaries, the Hulu limited series, the ongoing list of true crime podcasts, and true crime YouTubers. At the end of the day, it's just about collecting a check. Not for me, but for... I'm not monetized. But for the bigger true crime channels, it is only about collecting a check. That is all it's about. Pausing to do an ad read mid-true crime case is like me selling product at a funeral. It's like me selling merch at a funeral. It's not about you. This isn't about you. This is about them, the victims, their stories, not you and your money. Not you and the thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars that are already in your bank account. Why do you need that much money? Why do you need that much money if you're not doing anything with it? Donate. Give back to the community. Don't sit and tell true crime stories while putting on makeup and doing an ad read. The more the true crime community contributes to that type of branding and that type of messaging, the more true crime cases feel like fiction. And for a long time, for me, they did feel like fiction. For a long time, I supported Ryan Murphy. I supported him making these shows. And then something just clicked in my head. I have seen different things, different pieces of media come out. I've seen the way media reacts, the way we react to it as people. Recently, within the last couple of years, I had an epiphany where I was like, the true crime industry sucks. It sucks. The more that we contribute to this type of branding, the Richard Ramirez feels like some kind of faraway being. These all feel like characters in a book, BTK, you know? It all feels like a fantasy book series, but it's not. It's not a show for television. It's not a documentary to make money off of Amazon Prime, unless victims are actively involved. I know that they do that too. These are real things that happened in our communities, to our friends, to our people, to our family members. It's all real. Hybristophilia has existed before the true crime podcasts and the TV shows and Ryan Murphy. But the only reason it lives on today is because we are constantly detaching ourselves from the reality of what we talk about. And sometimes it's like maybe I understand wanting to detach yourself from like the Jeffrey Dahmer case. It's horrific. It's awful what he did to those people. It's awful what Ted Bundy did to those women. But the truth is, if you can't handle learning about the reality of Jeffrey Dahmer, then you shouldn't be in this industry. You shouldn't be in true crime. It's not an easy world to be a part of. And if you're only here to sexualize and watch the Ryan Murphy shows, if you're here for all of those things, you're not here for a good reason. I am a small YouTuber. I am small. I don't even have 700 subscribers yet. But I strive to build a community of like-minded people that understand what I'm talking about and understand that you can only be in true crime if you are doing this for the victims and the families, and you are doing this literally. I'm a big believer in history repeating itself. When you forget history, you are doomed to repeat it. That's why I think not letting these cases die is a good thing. I know that I have a lot more to say about this topic, but I am going to cut it here because I'm just going to start repeating myself. Thank you for watching. If you're still here, please subscribe and like and comment. I have an email that you can contact me at down below. Follow my Instagram. I post behind the scenes, all types of things over there. And also short form content, if that's something you're into. Thanks for hanging out with me again. Or for the first time. If this is your first video, hello. Have a good rest of your weekend. I will see you on Tuesday. Okay, goodbye.